I do have a big problem, and obviously one of the major concerns is the payment of the fees. Not only the ETTA, LTTA fees, but also the room fees as well. Again, I take control of this, look after it, and I do have quite a lot of chasing to sort the monies out.
One is simply the collection of fees from people is just getting the fees in on time, really. And it's not a major headache, but it's also never completely simple either.
I don't want to sort of create a scene or name names for any particular reason, because I do know I will get it. It's just sometimes the delay in actually getting that money. But the committee, I do know, if I did have any problems, they would fully back me up on any situations I had.
Should a secretary approach us and say he's having problems, then the executive can actually advise him what to do, help him in if it's money wise, we can get in touch with the player and say that if they don't, for instance, pay their signing on fee, that they cannot play in the Preston League unless they do pay the signing on fee, and they must pay it to their secretaries. We would rather the secretaries do this, and we don't want to rule with an iron hand, and we would rather the clubs ran themselves.
So what we do is set a club fee which is slightly higher than the money that would be required if each individual paid their share of the ETTA fees, if you see what I mean. That gives us a slight surplus to operate with throughout the year, which can come in useful for certain unpredicted expenses.
A bank account, it's handy, especially if it is a larger club. I mean, some clubs have been going for years, and the bank account has grown. It may be only a couple of £100 in it, but that's a lot of money to a small club. And if they have a problem, then they can solve the problem and then look to get the money refunded.
But yeah, I just went to my own building society, and they have a treasurer's account for small clubs, which you can run with sort of like maybe some of the benefits of a business account, but without the fees, basically. So it's ideal for our purposes.
So it's free banking?
Yeah.
That's not a hassle at all, is it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the only thing was we had to make sure everything was sort of double signed and things, and
nominated second signed.
Yeah, one of the other club members came forward and was happy to sort of sign the initial sort of application forms along with me. But we don't need to either withdraw or deposit money. We only, I can do all that. We don't need a second signatory every time we do it. So, it's quite easy to run from that point of view. I don't challenge people about it. I mean, all I do is issue reminders as required, really.
But eventually they do pay up. So.
Oh yeah.
It's a difficult one. Other teams will maybe have the meetings prior to the season and will request the money there and then. As I say, I know the problems. I won't get people turning up, so I'm just prepared to pay the money up front and then do the chasing after, but bear the consequences of the money being not quite arriving the time when I need it.
The second problem that we do have is establishing the lineups, particularly in the close season for the next season. If you have players dropping out and you need to, let's say, transfer a player or two into the club, sometimes the team will sort that out for themselves, and sometimes it may require, or it has seemed to require me sort of keeping my ear to the ground and doing a bit of asking around and finding somebody who can come into the club. I just want to try and fill all the teams really, and fill them, with players of the appropriate standard, and that's not an easy thing to do. That requires a lot of juggling really sometimes, and it has done really even in just the 3 or 4 years that we had.
When you get the phone call on the Monday, you're playing on the Wednesday, and I'm going away from work and I can't play. the game's already set up, you don't want to cancel it. Right, who do I get hold of now? Can I switch our A team's game round? Can I change this player around? Can I change that player around? Loads of phone calls. Absolute nightmare. I feel there should be some sort of scope where maybe teams should think about possibly having a bigger pool of players. But of course then we get the problem is you might have people who are not happy about playing once every 2-3 weeks, something like that. I want to play every week. I want to play every week. So it's an imbalance, and it might well be something that you can't really find a balance for. But that is one thing I would love to know how to address, or if we could address.
When I first started, we had just a PTTA registration form, and that was all quite simple, and they were kept at some central point, and everybody seemed to know where they were. And then we went over to using ETTA forms, and the transfer of information from one set of forms to the other has just seemed to be rather impossibly complex, and has never quite been tidied up, and we could do with it being tidied up, really.
Well, the last 2 years have been a bit of an anomaly on that. They don't normally do that. It was only because the ETTA asked us to fill one out and then amended the form, so we had to get different information on as well. So we asked them to fill it out again. This year they won't fill it out. We'll give it them, and then they can amend it in red, whether they've changed their address, whether they've changed the club.
Well, we're only 3 or 4 years old, so far we did. With the first couple of years we didn't bother, and then last year we did, because there were more than the usual set of doubts about who was playing for which team in what was last season, and because of the need to do things like set up a club bank account and get the finances on a firmer footing. That was the other reason for having a club meeting. So we just gathered here at the centre one evening around about this time of year, close season, sort of early close season, May, June, I think it was, and about a goodly, sort of number of club members, probably maybe 8 or 9 of us turned up for that.
Going back to my predecessor, in the 30 plus years that he's been looking after the club, we had an annual general meeting every year, and we all sat round the table, and there was agendas produced, and we went through religiously, and we talked about the team formats and how we were going to sort it all, team captains, payments on the night, and over the years the numbers just dwindled, and people didn't turn up until we decided in the end not to bother.
This year we're probably not going to bother. I've let people know that if anybody wants to call a meeting, very happy to do so, but nobody's responded to that. I think it looks as if the lineups for next season are a bit easy to establish, a bit more kind of continuity, so that would be my main concern, really.